Hello, just gonna hop on here real quickly and show the elastic closure that we discussed if your book is just too stuffed. So let me just turn the camera around here and get it up in the stand. Let's see, I can even lower this down a bit here. Okay, so our book with the extra thick things that we put in. Oh, I got my needle and thread caught up in my dangle. Let's get that off of there. We talked about a way to hold it closed would be this lovely elastic mesh that you can buy for headbands. You can buy them pre-made as headbands. You can buy them on a roll. So I cut a piece just over 12 inches. And I've got some heavy duty quilting thread, button thread, same thread that we used to sew our signature together if you did the hand sewing on your signature. And it's the same kind we use when we do the soft cover single signature books. And I got a button and a charm, and I'm gonna start, let me just grab a seat here. I'm gonna start by just threading my needle in and out. Because it's mesh and not a solid fabric, it's a little harder to sew it together, so you just want to make sure you get it all bunched up there. And I'm gonna run that back through again just to make a little cinch on it. Let me push the book back so maybe that doesn't hurt anything. Then I've pre-measured by wrapping it around. Mine I ended up getting just over 12 inches, and then I'm going to bring my thread over to this next side, and I'm going to do the same. And I'm not cutting it off and tying it because it's going to pull the two of them together, and then I'll overlap it when I'm done. So I've pulled that in where I think I want it. Oh, goodness, don't get yourself tangled. And then just pulling them so I can overlap them together, having a little bit of an overlap there, and then cinching it tight, going back through the underneath piece a couple of times. And your stitching is not going to show. It doesn't have to be pretty. You're going to cover it up with embellishments. So you just want it to be secure. This little bit, of course, won't be stretchy because I'm sewing all through it with a non-stretchy thread, and that is okay. The rest of it is your stretch. Just kind of, now I've turned it to the back so I can see my overlap in that piece that I sewed earlier and gathered. I'm going to sew flat here. Rough, loose, nothing special stitch through here to pull it, making this little cinched area. Not going to be pretty, but I'm going to be covering it up with my button and then hanging my charm, so it's not really going to show. I have a little piece sticking out here I want to make sure gets tucked in. I'm just pulling him all into that thread. And again, this is great for any junk journal when you don't want to put a ribbon tie. Sometimes putting a ribbon tie closure, if it's so stuffed, will really stress your hinge. And if it's an older golden book like this, you don't necessarily want to do that. Now, if you've taken it apart and done Tyvek and fabric and other reinforcement on your spine, you can certainly do that because it's not going to give. But these are not done that way, so we just want to preserve as much of the golden book integrity as we can because we kept that gold, or in this case red, spine. And I'm just working that through. It does get a little bulky spot. It's not a big deal. This is the back. I've just kind of tucked all that in. Here's the front. I've got a little messy spot right here. I've got to get up there and pull that little ribbon in because he came loose from where I cut him. So I'm just going to bring my needle up, make sure it goes through that piece so I can make sure he gets tacked down. And you see that pulled him right in. Then I'm going to, I just picked a button that would work with my cover. Of course, we all had different color covers on this book because they did so many different colors through the years. And I'm just sewing this button down over that seam where I pulled them together. And you could use a button, you could use any kind of hard material ephemera on this. It wouldn't matter what. It could be a charm, it can be metal, plastic, even chipboard. You have the chipboard buttons like come from Graphic 45. Those would work. They have the holes in them. Anything you can sew through. And if you don't get your seam really neat and you don't like the way it looks, under that button I certainly could have put a puff of tulle, ribbon, a little ribbon rosette. I could have done anything on here. I did one for 12 Days of Christmas that is posted in the shop, and I forget what I embellished that one with. I think the band was pink. It was a pink and green book, but it's super easy to do. Now I see I have another little tag hanging out here, so I'm going to make sure I catch that with my needle before I come back through. And I'm just putting a few stitches on here. Nothing spectacular. Okay, I've got enough now that I know it's going to hold my button on. I'm going to come back up here. And I have a little charm I picked that I want to hook on, so I'm just going to come through him. I'm going to let him dangle on my cover, so I'm just going to sew through him a couple times. And again, you could do this with flowers or ribbon rosettes or any piece of ephemera that you would like to put on your cover. You could sew your elastic together by machine, which would certainly give you a little flatter, neater edge, but this was just like a quick fix idea of something you could do. So many ways to use this elastic as a book closure. Whoops, I got him caught around my candy cane. So there we go. I've just got a button and a candy cane. I'm going to tie him off. And of course I have to do a big knot because this is a very open mesh and I don't want it to pull back through. Not that I anticipate anybody's going to be pulling on my candy cane, but you just never know. You want to be prepared for a kid who picks it up or just anything. Okay, and then I just cut my thread off. And I can just slip this around my book, whoops, to hold it closed. And I've just got a cute little embellishment there. I've got a little button and a candy cane. It doesn't interfere with any of my edging. I didn't do it so tight that it snugs this down because if I want to add stuff into my book, it's only going to get thicker, right? So I don't want this to be too tight. But there you go. It's just got a little button and a charm. Now I could have had Mayor give me some beads like what she used on here or tried to match this. But again, I just used a silver charm and the blue button. And I think I would actually kind of offset it and put it so it's over here. And that's a great way to keep my book closed. So just wanted to share that with you. Super easy. So you all could have an idea of one option. All right, guys. See you soon.